This is Abe Friedtanzer from Awards Buzz, and I'm very excited to be speaking with Luke Tennie about shrinking. How are you, Luke?
I'm doing great. Thank you so much for having me.
Of course. This show, I think, was a pretty good success in its first season. I hope people really found it. How did it feel going into season two, having already had the world experience season one?
It was so cool to get warm. I'd never done a show like this. I haven't been working much. I'm still under 10 years and being able to do something in this medium, being streaming on Apple with the people who made the last hit Apple show. It's a comedy. It's really nice to get my beak wet in all these new things, all these new categories. I'm just super grateful that people are responding positively to it because we work very hard on it. And I'm glad to know people are laughing as well as crying.
What do you like most about Sean?
We have a lot in common. I think something I really enjoy about playing Sean is we share a very similar mentality. From the jump, from when I first read the pilot for my audition, it was clear to me that Sean wanted to improve. And that's something I'm very passionate about. I'm into some martial arts. I love Minecraft. I love video games. I love cooking. And in every single one of those categories, I always fixate on doing better than I did the last time, on peaking, on reaching excellence. And Sean, he only has one category that's most important to him, and that is healing. And it was very clear in episode one when he said, "Can you make it stop? Can you fix it? Can you fix me?" That was like the sort of motivator that let me know that Sean and I had that big thing in common. We want to get better. I love that about Sean, and I can't wait to continue playing him.
There are definitely some great moments of success, some lighter moments, and some more serious things. And there's also some very self-destructive behavior that's a little bit hard to watch. How do you approach those scenes? Do you get yourself into a certain mindset for them?
With caution, I approached them with a great deal of caution, with respect. When you're acting, you get to play these characters who don't exist. But the more attributes that a character has, that is a very real thing, like being a vet, like struggling with PTSD, the responsibility, I think, increases than just being, say, a guy and I want to get it right. But what's so awesome is I can really trust the writers because they've done their research. They also have people on the writing team who have served in the military, one of which I saw a one man show of recently, and he was incredible. And it actually added a lot of context for me to use as Sean. I haven't told him that. His name is Bill Posley. But his one man show was incredible. And there's a lot of content from that kind of inspires me that I'm looking forward to using more of in season three. But I approach with caution, responsibility, and I can trust that the writers have done their research. I combine it with mine, and we're off to the races.
You have an input into some of his trajectory or what he says.
Well, what's so cool about shrinking is as soon as we get started with the first take, we kind of lay down a foundation, sort of frame, kind of skeleton, and then we kind of just pour some sauce on it, build the muscles, the sinews, the tendons, all that stuff. And that a lot of it is contributed by the performers. So although we might not sit down and have a powwow and say, I think Sean should say this, if we're committed, connected, and plugged into the character, when the moment arises, Sean just says it. And then you watch the final edit and you see what made it in, you see what they choose to keep, what they choose not to keep, and you kind of learn about the trajectory of your character through which things that they've picked that we creatively collaborated spontaneously in the moment.
Your use of the phrase pour some sauce is an excellent transition to my next question, which is whether you actually did any cooking as part of this season.
So for the show in that truck, no, I'm not cooking on the actual truck. It would be an extreme hazard to have a whole pot of grease next to these DPs who are up in my face with the camera. That being said, I do cook. As a matter of fact, I'm having a Friendsgiving next week. And man, the steak board that I got planned for these people, oh, I'm about to put my foot in it. Also, every one of them will have the opportunity of thanking Jason Siegel because I learned the sous vide reverse sear technique from him, where I finish my steaks on the grill and he sent me a sous vide. So every time I cook somebody a steak, I'm like, yo, thank Marshall. All right. Thank the dude who wrote Forgetting Sarah Marshall. All right. Thank that guy because that's who made me or who gave me this instrument that helps me make these delicious steaks, you know? So I love cooking, but nah, I'm not actually cooking on that truck. I think that would break several SAG violations.
Well, judging by this, I assume that Jason is far more respected and unifying on the set than Jimmy as a character.
This is correct. And I tease Jason about this all the time. Cause he's so good at playing a goober. He's so good at playing a goof. That guy's a movie star. Okay. He's freaking cool. And like, he never ever will tell you that that's what he thinks of himself. But I think he knows because I caught him one time, man. It was season one, and there was this thing happening where we had to jump this fence while we were running to go kick it with his daughter at the soccer game, if you remember that scene. And they had these stunt doubles ready for us. And they're like, okay, and then we'll cut, and then the stunt double will climb the fence, and then they'll land, and then we'll cut to Jason, and he'll be running and all that. And then he's like, could I just climb the fence? Everybody on the production is like, you won't be able to climb the fence, man. You're not gonna be able. He's like, oh, okay. And then I look at him, I'm like, it's just a fence, bro. And he's just like, he kind of cuts me a look. As soon as they yell action, he scales the fence, makes it look hard. It wasn't. He's incredibly strong. Then he drops on the floor, does that barbaric yell, and that's what's in the film. And then they look to me, who's much more clumsy than Jason Segel, and they say, all right, well, now you just got to climb it because you can't let this 40-year-old man climb this fence without you doing it, Mr. You in your 20s. I'm like, shoot, now I got to climb the fence, but I got to make it look cool. So he's far more unifying. He's far more of a leader. I call him QB, quarterback. He be calling the plays. This guy is such a charismatic heartthrob, and he's always playing these goobers. I love it. Kudos to him.
Now, someone who I would say doesn't tend to play goobers and might be a little more intimidating is Harrison Ford. And you get to share a lot more of your scenes with him this season. And I feel like Sean is one of the characters he really I maybe respects this too much, but I think he it's a healthier, more relationship in some ways.
Now, I agree with you, man. It's like if there's a word just sort of respect, that would be the one to describe what Paul has for Sean. And I think it might be his military service. I also think it might be the fact that he speaks plainly. A lot of what he says isn't cloaked and masked in otherisms and subtext. He's pretty honest about his fears, which I think Paul admires, which kind of to Paul makes him sort of a client that he will enjoy giving therapy to because he can trust that he will do his best to implement it. And as we watch the show, we can see that that's true. Paul talks hard and talks very straight with him. And as Sean gets the picture, Paul says, use the tool. What does Sean do? He uses the tool. So I do think in that relationship, there's a fair bit of respect that Paul has for Sean. But I also think that Sean has a great deal of respect for Paul because he respects Jimmy. And the guy in charge of Jimmy must be awesome. And he's right. He also looks a lot like Harrison Ford. So there's that kind of natural thing, that natural admiration that happens there.
The relationship that I enjoy most that Sean has in this season is certainly with Liz. I like that they're in business together and seem to be doing pretty well considering all the obstacles.
I agree. I love that relationship as well. I want to explore so much more. I have no tidbits or sort of background on what the heck is going to be happening in season 3, but I can tell you I want some more of that. I want to see some more Sean and Liz. They're so comfortable with each other. Like Liz is at full Liz when she's around Sean. And Sean like enjoys that from her. We can see it start to form at the art gallery in season 1. And then we see it really kind of come into fruition when he gets the rock. Like all these great, wonderful, loving, touching moments that happen between these two characters. I want more.
Well, who haven't you had a chance to work with enough? Who do you want Luke to get to share scenes with in season 3?
Man, you know what? So I get to do a little with everybody. But there's 2 people who I want like some one-on-one stuff with. So I finally got some one-on-one stuff with Ted McGinley, which is great. But now I feel like I'm lacking more one-on-one stuff with Jessica. Oh man, she's hilarious and a different kind of hilarious. I want to do way, way more stuff with her as Gabby. And of course, my favorite character, Brian. I don't know how we haven't got more scenes together. I'm so grateful that we see the hospital scene and Sean's perspective on Brian, he's the only dude who came in there who Sean was excited to see genuinely. And there's a reason for that. There's some uncle vibes going there that I would love to see explored because these sort of duos that Bill, Brett, and Jason create when they're writing this show just have so much potential for fun. And those are two duos I'm trying to see more of. I want to see more of Sean and Gabby, and I'm dying to see more of Sean and Brian.
That would be great. While we're on the subject of duos, I had the chance to see you in a supporting role in a film that I think is going to be a big part of the awards conversation this year, which nothing like Shrinking at all, but Nickel Boys is definitely a very, very interesting film. Can you tell me a little about your experience on that?
Yeah, thank you so much for asking about it and bringing it up. I love that film so much. I think it is necessary. I think it is responsibly made. I think it is boldly shot, wonderfully directed. There's so much about it that I'm just proud of. And for me, I just can't believe I didn't know about the Dozier School for Boys. I'm from Florida. I grew up there. That's Florida is my DNA. So the fact that I didn't know, having been from the state, makes me feel like there's something missing in our nation where these things aren't discussed and talked about. So I said I want to talk about it. As soon as I became aware of this movie, as soon as I got that audition, I read the book, I did the research, and I'm just grateful that they said yes to me so I could have some sort of a hand in bringing these dark, dark truths to light.
Absolutely. Well, this is Awards Buzz, so I'm always curious about the people who I'm talking to. What are you watching? Have you seen a film, a performance, a show recently that's really sticking with you as particularly awards worthy?
Let me think. It's tough for me to watch a lot of the recent stuff now because of I have a new baby. She's a year old, so I kind of watch in 12 to 15 minute increments. But let me just shout out Apple real quick. Some of the stuff I watched while my wife was pregnant. Foundation. The fact that nobody's freaking talking about that show is throwing me for a loop. Okay, Lee Pace walk in. That is one of the prettiest white men I ever seen in my life. That guy is built like a statue, and his performance capability is insane. He's always dressed in blue or green or an elf or something. And then Foundation, he just Lee pacing all over the place. And it's incredible. Also, shout out to Severance. That is the coolest high concept science fiction show I've ever seen with no visual science fiction element. It's all mental sci fi. It's brilliant. 10 out of 10. I can't wait to see more. I wish I could be on it. I wish I could be on Foundation. There's so many of these Apple shows I just want to be on. You know what I'm saying? Oh, goodness gracious. And let me think. One of the last movies. Oh, I'm seeing Gladiator tonight. Shout out to Fred, who's also in Nickel Boys. He's going to be in Gladiator 2, doing something devious. I don't know. I can't wait to see it. But the last thing that I saw recently that really moved me had to be Monkey Man. I can't believe people weren't discussing that. What Dev Patel did with that movie, that sort of anthem, that homage to that wonderful myth. And I love action too. And I ain't know Dev could move like that. But I haven't rewatched that movie. I'm due for a rewatch of that. It really put me in my feelings, but it was beautifully, beautifully done, and it moved me to no end. I'm so happy that we have Dev Patel. Like, I'm grateful he exists so that I could watch Monkey Man. Oh, thanks for asking. I could talk about TV and film till the cows come home.
These are great choices. Well, while we're waiting for season three, oh, I guess season two is still airing. Do you have any other projects lined up?
I do. I'm doing a lot on my own right now. I am a writer. I am a producer as well. I got a short film called Jade that I shot with my boy Noam Shapiro. We both wrote it, we both produced it, we both star in it. It's about a man who needs a haircut, and he goes over to his friend's crib to get this haircut, and he gets a little more than just a cut. He gets a lot of love and a perspective shift because he's fighting for dual custody of his daughter. He wants to look his best and be his best. And I'm also working that into a TV show. So me and Noam are working tirelessly. We just finished our pilot. We got some people reading it. We're going to see if anyone wants it. So I'm always working. If somebody hasn't hired me, I'm hiring myself in one way or another. I'm also writing my own action movie. I'm doing whatever I can to get these feet in these doors so I could then be the Jason to another Luke, the Harrison to another Luke. So I can then be the person in a position of power to work and also pour out love, respect, education, and artistic perspective to younger performers. That's what I want to do with my life and with my career.
Well, I wish you plenty of luck with that. It is such a pleasure to talk with you and look forward to seeing more of what you do.
Thanks so much, man. It was really a pleasure.